And this rain certainly very welcome to a very dry and hot Texas. Temperatures have come down. We do have, more in the way of rain today. But if we take a look at our Fox model, you can see this storm is going to continue to push its way off to the west pretty quickly. So we have those rain bands kind of coming ashore. Corpus Christi will deal with that in spurts as we go through the afternoon. But that big shield of rain pushes into Laredo and then quickly off into the Texas borderline as we go through about, say, 5, 6 o'clock local time. And then eventually we'll continue to push that into portions of northern Mexico. Well, Harold made landfall on Padre Island, Texas this morning, and the South Texas coast is getting rain whipped by the tropical storm. The storm carrying so much moisture, 3 to 5 inches of rain is expected. Fox Weather's Jason Fraser is live on Padre Island. Jason, you've been riding out the storm all morning. How's it feel now compared to when that landfall came through?
Well, when it originally came through, we saw the winds gusting up to right around 55 miles per hour. Right now, we've had some intermittent wind, but we still have some isolated time periods where those winds are really rocking and rolling here. I mean, you can really hear that against the mic here. Unfortunately, with these winds comes a whole lot of rain, and that's been impacting the visibility here as well. That is part of the reason why several schools in the area, in the Corpus Christi area, closed for the day. We've also had other schools that did have a 2-hour delay. City officials encouraging people to stay at home here. Now, there's also been a concern for some minor coastal flooding, anywhere between 1 to about 3-foot swells here. Now, one of the other things I did want to point out is at the top of the show here on Fox Weather First, I noticed that before Harold had originally walked, or I should say, when Harold came in, it was very hot. It was very soupy outside. But as these outer rain bands moved through there, the temperatures continued to drop here. So I would estimate that the temperature right now is in the 70s. It's cool. It's been a relief here. But, Jane, the good news is southern portions of Texas, they needed the rain. But the downside is, unfortunately, we could see some spots with some flooding.
And that flooding is already happening. Take a look here in Corpus Christi, Texas, where we've got rough surf coming ashore, heavy rain prompting flood warnings on top of the threat for tornadoes. It's a busy afternoon here at Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ. You can track the storms along with us. Download the free Fox Weather app if you haven't already. We've got a lot more coming up. Stay with us.
At Fox Weather, no matter the situation, we've got you covered.
Through the best and worst weather and everything in between.
We're all in this together.
Because there's nothing more important to us than keeping you safe.
From hurricane season to storm recovery, we're here for you.
We have a passion for weather and a passion for people.
That's why we love what we do.
Fox Weather, weathering it together.
Fox Weather Hurricane HQ, we're back here with live coverage of Harold. Tropical storm expected to continue to weaken now that has made landfall on Padre Island earlier this morning. We have an active alert system, Fox Weather Alert System, as we're not only tracking flash flood warnings, but also a number of tornado warnings. They have been issued here as those outer rain bands kind of swirl ashore. You can see there's the landfall that occurred earlier today is going to continue to push quickly across South Texas, bring out a whole lot of rain, but that on top of the threat for some severe weather. So you want to really pay attention to the forecast. If you find yourself here in South Texas, make sure you have your Fox Weather alerts turned on. Should there be that warning, tropical storm warnings that continue really until further notice. We'll likely start to see some of those fall off perhaps by tonight as the worst of the weather moves out of South Texas by the dinner hour. We'll watch that closely. But here's a look at some of our top wind reports so far from Harold. Corpus Christi Naval Air Station with a 63-mile-per-hour wind gust. We also had Padre Island, the point of landfall, with 56-mile-per-hour wind gusts, Rockport at 53, Kingville 48. And this wind can do some damage. It's whipped around the rain at a really steady clip. And we take a look at the active radar right now. We do have those 2 active flash flood warnings that will continue into the early afternoon. Corpus Christi included in that. Heavy rain continues to fall into the city, but also we have tornado warnings, one up towards Beeville that has been extended until 12:30 local time. And it's not that uncommon to get these rain bands that kind of swing around the center of the storm. We get that quick, tight rotation that drops down a brief tornado. The problem with this here is with such heavy rain that's coming through, we're not expected to be able to see the danger. Visibility has reduced greatly. And so if you're in Three Rivers, in Beeville, right in between these 2 towns, you've got really Highway 37 that snakes through here. Want to make sure that you're getting to a safe place, staying off the roads, really taking this warning seriously. Here's the rotation tightened back up, so it's not that uncommon to get that pulsing with that storm. So it didn't look as healthy as it did up towards Beeville, but now it's kind of repositioned itself up towards Orangedale. This, one of the more healthier signatures that we've seen in, say, about the last half an hour to 45 minutes when these warnings really began. Though the shear is rather weak, kind of showing it slightly on the board here. We'll watch it closely. It looks like we're repositioning that tornado potential towards Orangedale and Cadiz. So it's 2 towns that if you or you know someone here want to get to a safe place as quickly as possible, that is also where we're seeing the heaviest of the rain fall within this storm. And that rotation can quickly bring in that tornado potential, and some brief damage could be a possibility. We'll watch these warnings closely. You can track these storms along with us in the radar tab of your Fox Weather app. These warnings have been issued for Duval County, Texas. That runs until 2:15 local time, and it's within these warnings that we've picked up nearly 2 to 3 inches of rain since the early part of the morning. And with drought that has settled in across portions of South Texas, we were in severe drought here. It's not uncommon to see this rain quickly lead to flood potential. Here's 35, you have 37 just off to the east of there, all kind of leading into San Antonio. So it's really getting into South Texas where we're expecting to see the greatest flood threat. Here's the estimated rain just in the last 6 hours or so. We've had a widespread 2 to 3 inches as the center of Harold really tracked ashore. We saw that really heavy convection come in around Corpus Christi. We are still expecting some rain bands to kind of sneak their way through before the end of the day, but as that heavy rain came on in, we saw a number of roads begin to be overwhelmed with water. The Northwest Loop on Highway 286 flooded out. Also to a turnaround at North Beach had water over the road, making it a really dangerous spot to be. So hunkering down, I know a lot of the officials in Corpus Christi, a lot of school districts closing down work and school, so staying off the roads if you can. On our exclusive Fox model, now that we have landfall, the storm's going to continue to weaken but quickly push into the Mexico border. So by about 12 o'clock onwards, we're expecting the worst of the heavy rain to move into really the western border and then eventually push off into northern portions of Mexico. But you've got Del Rio, Study Butte that are still in the mix of seeing some heavy rain, becoming post-tropical some point this afternoon. Will continue into the early overnight, but really the worst of where we're seeing the weather now across South Texas, Corpus Christi to Laredo and Brownsville, kind of getting in the clear by the dinner hour onwards, opening up tomorrow morning with maybe a few lingering showers. But in the rain forecast, we might be able to squeeze out another half an inch to an inch a bit closer to the coastline, but the further inland you go, Crystal City to Laredo, where we're expecting to see the heaviest of the rain still to come as we open up early tomorrow morning. Heed the warnings. Make sure you're staying off the roads if you can. I know this is Texas and we're no stranger to tropical storms, but definitely want to take this one seriously as it has come to a quick start to your Tuesday. Tropical Storm Harold is the first Atlantic system of the season to make landfall on the U.S. coastline of the Gulf Coast. Fox Weather's exclusive storm tracker, Mark Sudduth, is in Corpus Christi Bay. Mark, great to have you on. Walk us through what you're seeing here, as it's really been a tough stretch of weather this morning.
Well, just as you have come to me, another one of those bands has come across the bay. I'm in a pretty big truck here, and it is rocking pretty good. It's like you're in a car wash, but people are on the outside of it, moving it back and forth. Pretty dramatic increase in the wind. Had a report from a weather flow station not far from here at Texas A&M of 60 miles per hour. Those are very dependable stations. I believe it because it is cranking out here right now.
Yeah, and Harold, you're in Hilary. You were in Harold now. You were in Hilary. You've had a pretty unique advantage of seeing both of these storms. Yeah. What do you talk about the differences between, the Pacific storm to Harold now coming in out of the Gulf?
Well, in Southern California, they are not unprecedented tropical cyclones coming up there. But what Hilary did was quite a different situation. A lot of heavy rain, full-on tropical storm conditions. I experienced that just a couple of days. It's been a whirlwind few days for me. And then to come over to the Texas coast where they are used to it, even though they are used to it, it can still be a nuisance. Schools are out. People are disrupted a little bit. And at least it is bringing that rainfall. These things have their pluses and minuses as long as they don't get too intense.
South Texas, no stranger to tropical systems. And in a lot of ways, this rain was quite welcome. They've been really devastated with drought and heat all summer long. And so to see those temperatures come down, get some rain on the board is in a lot of ways a really good thing for South Texas. But those waves right now in Corpus Christi are quite intense. Talk about the surf hazards. Hopefully people are heeding the warnings. Nobody's out there as those waves come crashing in.
Yeah, nobody's been down here. They were this morning. They were anywhere from walking their dogs on that seawall to a couple of people on one of those recumbent bicycles or tricycles or whatever it was. Not anything like that now. Nobody going in the water. A couple of the shots that Jason Frazier had, or that we had in some of his shots earlier from, I guess it was one of the surf line cameras down there of Padre Island. No, nobody out in this. Pretty smart here in Texas. They know how to deal with these things.
They certainly do, that's for sure. Now, this is the anniversary time of Harvey, where, of course, sure, a much different storm, a much more large and powerful system. But, as far as the storm surge goes, obviously not seeing the impacts of that. But I think the question is going forth, especially as we go into the Atlantic hurricane season, we still have a lot of it to go. Preparations need to continue. Texas knows what they're doing. What do you think? Do you think Corpus Christi has done a good job of really preparing themselves for Harold as it's come through?
Oh, yeah. I think the experience from the past helps. These folks here have the benefit of the local National Weather Service. There are a lot of hurricane workshops in the off season, and it's, something, again, that happens enough that people are generally ready. They know what's coming. But, when you get something like a Harvey 6 years ago that made landfall up near Rockport and Fulton, that was a Category 4, a very dangerous, different beast than what we're talking about here. So you take the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly down here.
Absolutely. Mark, we've really got, a couple of hours left of the worst of the impacts here from Harold in South Texas. Right. What are you most concerned with before I let you go?
the heavy rain moving inland, and then those tornadoes. I mean, all those polygons that were showing up that you were showing earlier there, a lot of different warnings coming in. Those are going to happen very quickly as all that spreads inland. The frictional effects there, bringing that twisting motion, the tornado threat, and the heavy rain threat, I think will be the biggest impacts going forward.
Yeah, that we're watching right now. Well, Mark Sedeth, always good to have you on. Your expertise certainly greatly appreciated as rain is coming for South Texas. Check back in with you.
Thank you.
And we take a look outside in Corpus Christi, in Laredo, Texas, where we do have overcast skies. Heavy rain still on the way for Laredo. We're getting some of those outer rain bands now, but we've got several more hours to go before we can say we're kind of in the clear. A couple people out there on the roads, but here's a look at the spin. Tropical Storm Harold holding together. We will likely see that weakening. And that downgrade might become post-tropical in the next advisory. We'll see how it goes, but still, rotation looks quite nice. Tropical storm warnings, they are posted really for the coastline, but further inland, we'll take it into Falfurrias. That's where we do have these tropical storm force wind gusts. They have been recorded in a place like Corpus Christi Naval Air Station, 63-mile-per-hour winds there. Padre Island, the point of landfall, 56-mile-per-hour gusts, and in Rockport up to 53 miles per hour. This kind of up and down the coastline, say just south of Corpus Christi northward. We do have active flash flood warnings, so you take a look at the board here. It is very active as we go through the middle part of the day. This is really going to be the time where we have to monitor for all of those impacts. They come in quick and they can do a quick hit, so you want to make sure that maybe you're just spending the rest of this afternoon here in South Texas hunkering down. We do have a tornado warning for Live Oak, Texas. This one tightening up a touch near Karen and Cadiz. So this is where we're concerned with potentially getting that brief spin of a tornado. This is a radar indicated rotation, so we don't have confirmation that a tornado is in progress, but it certainly looks quite healthy as we take a look at the evolution of that rotation in the last couple of minutes. Showing up as a weak set of winds, but still one for us to watch. Oftentimes these tropical induced tornadoes can be rather weak and brief, but enough to cause a bit of damage. You can see we have Interstate 37 sits right about here. That rotation, say, only about 20 to 30 miles or so off to the east. So we'll watch it very closely. We'll bring it to you should that be confirmed. But in the meantime, get to a safe place. Take the warning seriously, putting as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible. To the north of that, near Goliad, we do have another tornado warning that we're going to continue to monitor here. You too can track the storms along with us in the radar tab of your Fox Weather app. Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ. We'll be right back. everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Fox Weather. I'm Jane Minar. Tornado warnings are sounded here as the impacts of Tropical Storm Harold push into South Texas, making landfall earlier this morning. We have Fox Weather team coverage in South Texas, but first I want to get you caught up on the latest of the storm and where it's going. Here's a look at the stats. Now, we are awaiting a new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. In that new advisory, we will likely see the weakening of Harold as it interacts with land. We're still seeing a real nice circulation, though, as it kind of pushes on shore. 50-mile-per-hour winds was the stats at landfall, moving off to west-northwest at 21 miles per hour. So it's that quick forward speed that did allow a little bit of tightening, a little bit of a stronger winds kind of pushing ashore just south of Corpus Christi. Those outer rain bands still kind of extending just offshore. But it's really the western edge of the storm that's proving to be a bit more difficult with heavy rain leading to flash flood warnings. Take a look at these waves as they crash on in. I mean, intense surf. Thankfully, a lot of people have listened to the warnings. They are staying out of the water, away from the coastline, as we're seeing Harold kind of unleash a lot of its fury on South Texas. Here's the stats from Harold's landfall. It happened about 9:50 a.m. Central Time on Padre Island. 50-mile-per-hour max winds was a tropical storm at landfall. And if we take a look, we do have tropical storm warnings that are still posted. Tropical storm watch just to the north of that up towards Bay City, but it's really been Rockport, Corpus Christi down to the south that have seen worst of the impacts. I mean, the tropical storm force wind gusts verifying here. Corpus Christi Naval Air Station with a 63-mile-per-hour gust, Padre Island 56-mile-per-hour gust, and Rockport at 53. This is the type of wind that drives the rain. It's not fun to be in. Of course, you know, the local officials there in Corpus Christi taking the warning seriously from this storm. A lot of school districts had the day off from school, people working from home, as a lot of this rain and wind continues on into the middle part of the day. So center of Harold pushes on shore, but we're still seeing the banding effect of that storm kind of push its way through here. It's this outer rain band up towards Beeville that you can see we have a bit more of a twist and rotation as where all of our tornado warnings kind of lie within a line. And then from Corpus Christi coastline down westward out towards Kingsville, right along, say, in between Interstate 37 and 35, that we are seeing the worst of the flooding rain. Getting you into these tornado warnings, this one here between Beeville and Three Rivers has been an interesting one to watch. It's kind of been pulsing up and down as far as that rotation tightening and then weakening and broadening out. At last look, it did tighten up just a touch, so I would advise you to really take this warning seriously, getting to a safe place. The problem is with the heavy rain, you're not going to be able to see the danger coming in your direction. The visibilities have dropped here. There's that rotation tightening up now just south of Carrion. We'll continue to approach Interstate 37 before moving into Three Rivers. So getting to your safe place. They shaved off the warning, so if you are in Orangedale, in Mineral, even in Cadiz, I'd say you're in your safe place now as this threat has shifted further off to the west. But in the meantime, still making sure that you're monitoring this storm closely, as we are anticipating to see the potential for more spin-ups continue as the afternoon rolls on. New tornado warning has been issued here, this for Orange Grove. Now, this is a unique situation where you have a tornado warning where we suggest you get to the lowest level of your home, and a flash flood warning at the same time where we suggest you get to the highest point of your home. This, I tell you, make sure that you're using your common sense. Take a minute to look at your surroundings. If flooding is not an imminent danger, you want to get to that lowest level, putting as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible, or at the very least, an interior room, your bathroom or a closet are a safe place to be. Now we take a look at the radar winds, our storm winds, this showing us where we could see that rotation tightened up real nicely around La Fruta into Gorbit Estates Colonia. That's where we saw that rotation that triggered that tornado warning. We had some real relatively strong rotation right here near Gorbit Estates Colonia, right along the highway. You can see a lot of farmland out here, but definitely one for us to watch closely as it pushes its way off to the southwest. This is a tornado warning that has been issued until 12:30. We'll continue to watch it closely as it moves off to the south. Jim Wells, Texas, this is where that tornado sits. Now, we also have a flash flood morning for rain that has dropped nearly 2 to 3 inches in the last couple of hours, and it is expected to continue to fall. This in the outer rain bands of Harold as it kind of pushes its way through just off to the north of Alice. We're going to continue to watch these storms very closely. You can track them along with us in your Fox Weather app. Now, Harold made landfall on Padre Island, Texas earlier this morning. It's a ghost town as the rain gets whipped up by rain, and Fox Weather's Katie Byrne is live in Corpus Christi, which is under that flash flood warning right now. And Katie, are you seeing, the verification of that with a lot of these roads covered with rain?
You know what? We have seen a good amount of flooding already today. We heard things pick up really early this morning. Was the first band came through around 6 a.m. It woke me up. It was so loud, the rain banging against the windows, but that wasn't even the worst of it. Of course, we know that this storm made landfall later on in the late morning hours and pretty close to us, too. In fact, I think Corpus Christi area where we are is reporting the strongest wind gusts, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts reported at the Texas A&M University campus in Corpus Christi. And we feel those winds. We're seeing the rain die down a bit, but we obviously have some strong winds that we're dealing with. If you look around, you're seeing some pooling water in places like here where we are along the shoreline, right in downtown Corpus Christi. And I was talking to some emergency management workers who've been out and about just kind of assessing the scene in town. They're telling me that when you look out at these waves here, obviously the shore has moved in quite a bit, and I think you could probably hear that wind coming at us when we face the direction of this water. It's hard for us to show this because there's a good amount of condensation happening out here. It is soaking wet. The gear is trying to hold up against it, but I was told by some of the workers that when you look out at some of these waves, and I'm not sure if you can see them, where the waves are breaking is where the beach would normally start. So we've got a lot of water very close to the boardwalk here. Not a lot of people out. It's been pretty much a ghost town today. We drove around earlier when we were really in the thick of things. Visibility was really low at times. You can see pieces of palm trees chipping off like this right here. If you look, that is just all over streets here in Corpus Christi. And then some streets are dealing with some flooding. We know that we've got some flash flood warnings popping up, some tornado warnings popping up across the state, so we're going to be monitoring that. We also know that kids here in Corpus Christi had a delay for school today, and we were kind of wondering if the schools were going to end up just ultimately canceling altogether, which they didn't. They kept the delay, so some high schoolers had to drive in this. And this is actually not as bad as it was, but we are still dealing with some strong winds coming off the water here, and the rain dying down, but still coming down a little bit as I hold my hat on for dear life with these winds picking up. Not sure if you can see these palm trees moving with this. Something else that we really noticed when things were really bad was that water just rippling off the pavement, making it really hard to see and drive. It looks like more people are driving now on Shoreline Boulevard than they were earlier this morning, but definitely it seems like we're getting a little bit out of the worst of it, but clearly, I mean, the storm is here.
The storm is there. You're absolutely right. I think that's such an interesting development, Katie, that the high schoolers still went to school this morning. I think it just shows you, Texas, they can handle this. In a lot of ways, too, the rain was welcome. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to anybody. It's been so hot and dry in South Texas. Were there anybody that was kind of excited to see the tropical storm come in?
Well, you know what? I hear a little bit of what you're saying, Jane, and on the note of they can handle this, it's trash day today. We saw trash trucks out in the thick of this about an hour ago, picking up people's trash. So that just shows you that this is not something that everyone is super concerned about. Obviously, some people are really happy that we are getting rain because of the fact that we have had no rain here for the entire month of August.
Go because it's getting hard. That rain and that wind is certainly whipping. I want to get you into a safe place. We'll check back in with you this morning, but let's get you to the stats right now, of course, on what Harold is doing. Now, you saw she was mentioning how in Corpus Christi In that shot, it didn't quite look like it. Rain was picking up. It's going to come in bands just like that. In fact, I think the more widespread worst of the rain is kind of pushed out of Corpus Christi. We're now going to get kind of that second wave of maybe a few bands coming offshore. But that landfall happened earlier this morning at about 9:50 local time, 50-mile-per-hour max sustained winds. Just before landfall, maybe about a 30-minute window, did we see that brief strengthening before coming ashore. Not that uncommon, as we saw that forward speed kind of push it into the Padre Island coastline. Tropical storm warnings are continuing through the day today. We'll likely start to see some of these drop off as we go through tonight. Peak storm surge up to 3 feet. You heard Katie mention how those waves were kind of coming up to where the beach starts. So there isn't a lot of sand to work with, but you know, we have that barrier in place for a reason. So that's some good news, as we're not seeing those waves come up any further to really bring it more of a disruption to life. But it is definitely quite dangerous, as we do have that rough surf, and you know, urging people to really stay away from the coast and from the waters. Top wind gusts right now. We take a look as we go through the day today that these winds will continue to push further westward. But for now, Corpus Christi has been taking a beating. Now, Corpus Christi, in relation to where Harold sits, it kind of makes sense why Corpus Christi is seeing those stronger wind gusts. When you think of tropical systems, you want to put it into a quadrant, and it's really the northeastern quadrant that sees the gustier winds, because as the storm kind of wraps itself up on shore, you kind of get that forward push of winds. So that's very a good indication that the storm is moving and behaving as we would expect it to. 59-mile-per-hour gusts there in Corpus Christi. And then you can see on the backside how those winds kind of weaken a touch, but then ramp up on the northeastern quadrant. But in a place like Edinburgh, Zapata, this is just the beginning of the day. You know, we've got more in the way of rain pushing its way through. Top wind gusts right now coming in at 63 miles per hour at the Corpus Christi Naval Air Station. Corpus Christi International saw 62-mile-per-hour gusts. Padre Island at 56. Rockport at 53. Now we take a look at the alert system. We're getting information coming in. 2.5-foot storm surge recorded at the bay near Corpus Christi. So no surprise when you see those waves crash ashore. You know, some of that storm surge, especially with that onshore push of wind, is going to push that water dangerously close to really, you know, where we're driving every single day, Shoreline Boulevard there in Corpus Christi. Now, on top of the flooding concerns, we do have tornado warnings. In these outer rain bands of Harold, we are getting a bit of twist. This tornado warning runs for Jim Wells County, Texas until 12:30 local time. We watch this rotation tighten up near Orange Grove. It's going to continue to push off to the southwest, running into Highway 281. There's that rotation tightened up, but now it's broadened out greatly. And so if you take it back to where we saw that threat, it looked like it tightened up right just to the south of Mathis, right there. That's where that warning was issued. And now as it continues to broaden out, it looks like they're going to continue to watch this one. In fact, they've dropped the warning altogether. So, hey, if you are in Jim Wells, Texas, that is some great news for you, as you don't have that tornado threat anymore. Flash flood warning, however, does continue until 2:15. As heavy rain falls through the county, we've already amounted upwards to 2 to 3 inches of rain. So take your time. We suggest you don't go out onto the roads if you don't have to. But you heard, you know, especially in Corpus Christi, which, by the way, is still under a flash flood warning. You know, not only have we had a lot of rain, we've had street flooding, but high school is still in session. We still have people out and about, trash trucks going around doing their business. So just find yourself in a safe position. Try to be cautious. We'll have a lot more. Fox Weather is your Hurricane HQ.
At Fox Weather, no matter the situation, we've got you covered.
Through the best and worst weather and everything in between.
We're all in this together.
Because there's nothing more important to us than keeping you safe.
From hurricane season to storm recovery, we're here for you.
We have a passion for weather and a passion for people.
That's why we love what we do.
Fox Weather, weathering it together.